The rain was ice against my skin, mirroring the cold emptiness that had taken root inside me. Just hours ago, I'd been signing autographs at a charity gala, the darling of the real estate world. Now, I was watching the man I loved celebrate with the vultures who had picked my life clean. They toasted to my downfall, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. They believed they had destroyed Violet, heir to the Sterling Empire, but they had only awakened a force they couldn't comprehend. If you would go to the ends of the earth for your family, protect them by subscribing now. My world had always revolved around Sterling Enterprises. My father, a titan in the industry, built it from the ground up, instilling in me a fierce love for the business and an even fiercer loyalty to its people. I remember spending summers shadowing him, learning the intricacies of property development, negotiation, and the delicate art of turning concrete and steel into thriving communities. He'd always said, "Violet, this company is more than bricks and mortar. It's a legacy, a promise to build a better future." When he tragically left this world in a plane accident, the reins of that legacy fell to me, a responsibility I embraced with every fiber of my being. I was young, perhaps naive, but I was determined to honor his memory and guide Sterling Enterprises to even greater heights. That's when I met Julian. He was ambitious, charismatic, and seemed genuinely devoted to the company's success. He quickly became my right-hand man, my confidant, and eventually my husband. I foolishly believed he shared my vision, my passion for Sterling Enterprises. I confided in him, shared my fears and dreams, and entrusted him with more and more responsibility. The company flourished under our combined leadership, or so I thought. Looking back, the signs were there: the hushed conversations, the furtive glances, the subtle shifts in power dynamics. But I was blinded by love, by trust, by the comfort of believing I had found a true partner in life and business. Then came the day the carefully constructed facade crumbled. A supposed accounting error, a minor discrepancy flagged during a routine audit, that quickly spiraled into a full-blown investigation. Evidence surfaced implicating me in a series of shady deals, inflated property valuations, and outright fraud. The media descended like a pack of wolves, painting me as a ruthless corporate villain, a disgrace to my father's name. Julian, always the picture of calm composure, stood by my side, publicly expressing his unwavering support, while secretly orchestrating my demise. He advised me to step down from my position as CEO, assuring me it was the only way to protect the company and salvage what was left of my reputation. Blinded by trust, I listened. I relinquished control, handing over the reins to the very man who was driving the knife into my back.
The board, packed with Julian's allies, swiftly voted him in as my replacement. I was isolated, betrayed, and utterly alone. He filed for divorce soon after, claiming irreconcilable differences, citing the stress of the scandal as grounds for separation. I was devastated, heartbroken, but still clinging to the hope that somehow this was all a terrible misunderstanding. I signed the divorce papers, believing I was doing the right thing, protecting Julian and the company from further scrutiny. The person I trusted most was one of them. The world I knew dissolved into a nightmare. My name, once synonymous with innovation and success, was now dragged through the mud. Every news channel, every blog, every social media platform screamed accusations. I became a pariah. Friends turned their backs, business associates vanished, and the city I had once called home felt hostile, alien. My phone rang incessantly, not with offers of support, but with threats and insults. I stopped answering. The once opulent penthouse apartment, a symbol of my achievements, now felt like a gilded cage, trapping me with my shame and regret. Sleep became a luxury. Night after night, I lay awake, replaying the events leading up to my downfall, searching for clues I had missed, moments where I could have changed the course of fate. I saw Julian's face in every shadow, his smile twisted into a mask of deceit. The weight of the injustice was crushing, suffocating. I tried to reach out to former colleagues, people I had considered friends and allies, but my calls went unanswered, my emails bounced back. They had all chosen sides, and I was on the losing end. Even my lawyers seemed hesitant.
their voices laced with doubt, their fees astronomical. It became painfully clear that I was fighting this battle alone. Desperate, I sought to clear my name. I pored over financial records, piecing together the puzzle of my betrayal, searching for the evidence that would exonerate me. But Julian was thorough, meticulous. Every paper trail led back to me. Every transaction bore my signature. I felt like I was drowning, grasping at straws in a sea of lies. I tried to appeal to the board of directors, hoping to reason with them, to show them the truth. But they were loyal to Julian now, blinded by his charm and promises of higher profits. They dismissed my claims as the desperate ramblings of a disgraced CEO. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank. Each attempt to salvage my reputation only served to further entrench me in the eyes of the public. I was trapped in a web of deceit, spun by the man I had loved and trusted. Each day was a battle against despair, a desperate attempt to hold on to the last vestiges of my sanity. My body grew weaker, my spirit fractured, but deep within, a flicker of defiance remained. They had taken everything from me, but they would not break me. The memory of my father, his unwavering integrity, and his unwavering belief in me fueled my resolve.
I would not let his legacy be tarnished by their lies. I would fight back, not with anger or vengeance, but with the same intelligence and determination that had molded me a success in the first place. But first, I needed a plan. I needed to understand the full extent of their scheme, to uncover the evidence that would expose their treachery and restore my name. And that meant playing their game, pretending to be defeated, while secretly gathering the pieces I needed to bring them crashing down. They thought they had silenced Violet Sterling, but they had only awakened a sleeping giant. The silence was the worst. Not the absence of sound, but the heavy, suffocating silence of isolation. It pressed down on me, a constant reminder of my fall. I stopped looking at the news, stopped reading the comments. The world outside had become a cacophony of condemnation, and I couldn't bear to listen. The apartment grew darker, the curtains perpetually drawn, shielding me from the judging eyes I imagined everywhere. Food became tasteless, sleep a distant memory. I existed, but I wasn't living. One evening, I found myself standing on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below like a mocking reminder of the life I had lost. The wind whipped around me, cold and unforgiving, and for a moment I felt a strange sense of peace. It would be so easy. A simple step, a release from the pain. The thought lingered, tempting. But then a memory flickered in my mind, my father's face, his unwavering gaze, his words echoing in my ears. Never give up, Violet. Never let them break you. The vision cleared the fog in my mind. My hands clenched the railing, the cold metal grounding me in reality. No, I wouldn't let them win. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me defeated. They wanted me gone, erased, but I would not oblige them. A spark ignited within me, a flicker of defiance against the encroaching darkness. It wasn't hope, not yet, but it was something stronger, a cold, burning resolve. I would not let their lies define me. I would expose them, reveal their treachery to the world, and reclaim what they had stolen. The first step was to understand the full extent of their scheme. I needed information, evidence, something concrete to fight back with. But how? I was isolated, cut off from my former contacts, watched like a hawk by Julian's people. Then I remembered Sarah, my former assistant. She had been fiercely loyal to me, always discreet, always reliable. I hadn't spoken to her since the scandal broke, fearing she would have been pressured to turn against me, but I had to try. I found her number, buried deep in my contacts, and hesitated for a long moment before pressing the call button. Each ring felt like an eternity, the silence on the other end amplifying my anxiety. Just as I was about to give up, she answered. Her voice was hesitant, guarded, but I could hear a flicker of warmth beneath the surface. I explained my situation, carefully choosing my words, conveying my desperation without revealing too much. To my relief, she listened. She told me she had always believed in my innocence, that she knew Julian was behind it all. But she was scared, afraid of what he might do if she helped me. I understood. Julian was a powerful man, ruthless and vindictive. But I pleaded with her, reminding her of our past friendship, appealing to her sense of justice. Finally, she relented. She couldn't promise much, but she would do what she could to help me uncover the truth. She agreed to meet me, not at her apartment or office, but at a small, out-of-the-way cafe on the other side of town, a place where we wouldn't be seen. The meeting was brief, tense, and fraught with paranoia. Sarah looked pale and drawn, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She handed me a USB drive, whispering that it contained copies of documents she had managed to smuggle out of Julian's office. Financial records, emails, meeting minutes, everything I needed to start piecing together the puzzle. She warned me to be careful, to trust no one, and then she was gone, disappearing back into the anonymity of the city. I returned to my apartment, my heart pounding with anticipation and fear. I plugged the USB drive into my laptop, my hands trembling as I opened the first file. The information was overwhelming, a tangled web of deceit and corruption. But as I delved deeper, a pattern began to emerge. Julian had been systematically siphoning funds from Sterling Enterprises into offshore accounts, inflating property values to secure fraudulent loans, and bribing government officials to approve shady deals. He had been planning this for years, carefully manipulating me, using my trust and affection to further his own ambitions. The evidence was damning, irrefutable. I had them. But exposing them wouldn't be easy. Julian had powerful allies, influential friends who would do anything to protect him. I needed a plan, a strategy to ensure that the truth would be heard, that justice would be served. I spent days poring over the documents, analyzing every detail, searching for weaknesses, for leverage. I realized that Julian's biggest weakness was his arrogance. He believed he was untouchable, that he was too clever to be caught. He underestimated me. He thought he had broken me, but he had only fueled my resolve. I was no longer the naive, trusting woman he had manipulated. I was a force to be reckoned with, and I would not rest until he and his cronies were brought to justice. The rain outside had stopped, and a sliver of moonlight peeked through the curtains, illuminating the room. I closed my laptop, a grim smile playing on my lips. The game had changed. It was no longer about saving my reputation. It was about exposing the truth, about reclaiming my life, and about making them pay for what they had done. The sleeping giant had awakened, and revenge was about to be served. I smiled. I played their game, the broken, defeated woman. I even started venturing out again, frequenting the same restaurants and social events as Julian and his new circle of sycophants. They watched me, of course, savoring my humiliation, convinced that I was a shadow of my former self. What they didn't know was that every carefully chosen word, every seemingly casual encounter, was part of my plan. I invested in miniature, state-of-the-art audio and video recording devices, seamlessly integrated into everyday accessories, a brooch, a pen, even the lenses of my glasses. Every conversation with Julian, every interaction with his cronies was meticulously documented. I needed irrefutable proof, not just of their financial crimes, but also of their conspiracy to frame me. I knew that Julian had likely covered his tracks, erasing emails, deleting files, but he had underestimated the power of modern forensic technology. I contacted a former colleague from my university days, a brilliant computer scientist who specialized in data recovery. He agreed to help me, discreetly analyzing Julian's devices for deleted files and hidden data. It was a risky move, but I trusted him implicitly. He worked tirelessly, poring over terabytes of information, searching for the smoking gun that would tie Julian directly to the fraud. Days turned into weeks, and I grew increasingly anxious, fearing that my plan would be discovered before I could execute it. There were close calls, moments when I thought I had been exposed. Once, Julian unexpectedly invited me to his office for a drink, ostensibly to discuss a settlement to our divorce. I knew it was a trap, a chance for him to gauge my state of mind, to see if I posed a threat. I played the part of the wounded ex-wife, feigning vulnerability and regret. He seemed convinced, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction. As he poured me a glass of wine, I subtly activated the recording device in my brooch, capturing his every word, every gesture.
Later that night, I reviewed the recording, searching for clues, for any indication that he suspected my deception. He mentioned the investigation, casually dismissing it as a minor inconvenience that would soon be resolved. He spoke of his plans for Sterling Enterprises, his vision for a future without me. His arrogance was breathtaking, his confidence unwavering. It fueled my resolve, hardening my heart. He would pay for his betrayal, I vowed, with every fiber of my being. The waiting was agonizing. I knew that time was running out, that Julian would eventually uncover my scheme. I had to act fast to expose him before he could silence me for good.
I needed a platform, a way to disseminate the evidence to the public, to the authorities, to the world. I considered leaking the information to the media, but I feared that Julian's powerful connections would suppress the story. I needed something more direct, something that would bypass the gatekeepers and reach the masses unfiltered. That's when I decided to create a website, a digital repository of all the evidence I had gathered. I hired a team of anonymous web developers and cybersecurity experts to build a secure, untraceable platform where I could upload the documents, recordings, and forensic reports. We called it Project Veritas, a nod to my unwavering commitment to the truth. The website was designed to be user-friendly, with clear, concise explanations of the complex financial transactions and legal proceedings. We included interactive timelines, animated graphics, and video testimonials to make the information accessible to a wide audience. The cybersecurity experts implemented multiple layers of encryption and security protocols to protect the website from hacking and censorship. They also created a system of mirror sites, copies of the website hosted on servers around the world, to ensure that the information would remain available even if one site was taken down. I knew that launching Project Veritas was a gamble, a high-stakes move that could backfire spectacularly, but I was willing to take the risk. I had nothing left to lose. My reputation had already been destroyed, my career ruined, my personal life shattered. All that remained was my unwavering commitment to justice, my burning desire to expose the truth. The website was ready, the evidence compiled, the stage set. All that remained was to press the button, to unleash the information upon the world. But I hesitated. I knew that once I launched Project Veritas, there would be no turning back. The consequences would be far-reaching, unpredictable. Julian and his cronies would be exposed, their careers ruined, their lives shattered. But what about Sterling Enterprises? What about the employees, the shareholders, the community that depended on the company's success? Would my actions inadvertently harm the very people I was trying to protect? The weight of the decision was crushing. I spent sleepless nights agonizing over the potential consequences, weighing the risks and benefits. I consulted with my legal team, my financial advisors, my trusted confidants. Their opinions were divided, some urging me to proceed, others advising caution. Ultimately, the decision was mine, and mine alone. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and listened to my heart. The answer was clear. The truth had to be told, no matter the cost. The sleeping giant had awakened, and revenge was about to be served.
The final piece fell into place on a rainy Tuesday. My computer scientist contact, a man named Ben, called me, his voice tight with controlled excitement. He'd recovered everything. Not just deleted emails and financial records, but a video file hidden deep within Julian's encrypted drive. A video of a meeting held months before the scandal broke, in a secluded cabin in the mountains. Julian, along with several of his closest associates, including the government officials he'd been bribing, discussing the plan to frame me. The entire scheme laid out in excruciating detail. The lies, the manufactured evidence, the carefully orchestrated smear campaign. It was all there, in black and white, or rather, in high-definition video. Watching it, I felt a cold fury unlike anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't just about the money, the power, the control. It was about the sheer malice, the calculated cruelty with which they had sought to destroy me. My vision blurred, the glass in my hand shattered, sending shards of crystal and crimson liquid across the floor. I barely noticed. The video was my weapon, the ultimate proof of their guilt. Project Veritas was ready, but I wouldn't launch it just yet. I had a better idea, a more personal, a more satisfying revenge. They wanted to see me broken, I'd show them broken. I decided to lure them into a trap so perfectly designed, so flawlessly executed, that they wouldn't even see it coming until it was too late. The first step was to let Julian know that I was aware of the video. Not directly, of course. I couldn't risk him destroying the original, but I could plant a seed of doubt, a hint of suspicion that would fester in his mind and drive him to act rashly. I arranged a chance encounter at a charity gala, a black tie affair filled with the city's elite. I made sure to look stunning, radiant,
a far cry from the defeated woman they had all written off. I circulated through the crowd, greeting friends and acquaintances, making small talk, always keeping Julian in my peripheral vision. When our paths finally crossed, I greeted him with a worn smile, a hint of nostalgia in my voice. "Julian," I said, "it's been too long." He looked uneasy, his eyes darting nervously around the room. "Violet," he replied, his voice strained. "You look, well." "I'm doing better than ever," I said, my smile widening. "I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately, thinking about the past, about our partnership." I paused, letting the word hang in the air. "It's amazing what you can uncover when you start digging deep enough, isn't it?" I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes, a brief moment of vulnerability before he regained his composure. "I have no idea what you're talking about," he said, his voice hardening. "Don't play coy with me, Julian," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. "I know everything." And then I walked away, leaving him to stew in his paranoia.
I knew he would be frantic, desperate to find out how much I knew and how I had found out. He would be watching my every move, trying to anticipate my next step. And that's exactly what I wanted. Over the next few days, I intensified the pressure, dropping subtle hints, leaking carefully curated pieces of information to select members of his inner circle. I knew that word would get back to him, fueling his anxiety, pushing him closer to the edge. I made sure to appear busy, meeting with lawyers, financial advisors, and even the occasional private investigator. I wanted him to believe that I was building a case against him, preparing to launch a full-scale assault on his empire. He took the bait, exactly as I had predicted. He reached out to me, offering to negotiate a settlement, to put this whole thing behind us. I pretended to be receptive, eager to avoid a messy and public legal battle. I proposed a meeting, a private, confidential discussion where we could iron out the details. He agreed immediately, suggesting a secluded location, a remote estate he owned in the countryside. I knew it was a trap, a chance for him to silence me permanently, but I accepted without hesitation. It was exactly what I wanted. I spent the next few days preparing, meticulously planning every detail of my countertrap. I knew that Julian would be expecting me to come alone, vulnerable, unsuspecting. He would be expecting to have the upper hand, but he was wrong. I was several steps ahead of him. I contacted a team of former Special Forces operatives, highly skilled professionals who specialized in security and surveillance. I hired them to protect me, to monitor Julian's every move, and to ensure that I had the evidence I needed to expose him to the world. They were discreet, efficient, and utterly ruthless. They would be my guardians, my protectors, my avengers. The day of the meeting arrived, cold and overcast, the sky heavy with impending rain. I drove to Julian's estate, my heart pounding with anticipation and a strange sense of exhilaration. I knew that this was it, the culmination of months of planning, the moment of truth. As I approached the estate, I noticed a heightened level of security, more guards than usual patrolling the perimeter. I wasn't surprised. Julian wasn't taking any chances. I drove through the gates, my car carefully scanned by security cameras, and proceeded down the long, winding driveway to the main house. The house was a sprawling mansion, a monument to Julian's wealth and power. It was opulent, extravagant, and utterly soulless. I parked the car in front of the entrance and took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. As I stepped out of the car, I saw Julian standing on the porch, a grim smile on his face. "Violet," he said, his voice devoid of warmth. "Welcome. I've been expecting you." He gestured for me to follow him inside. I walked towards him, my eyes fixed on his, my resolve unwavering.
"Let's get this over with, Julian," I said. "I have a feeling this is going to be a very interesting conversation." As I crossed the threshold into the house, I knew that I was walking into the lion's den, but I wasn't afraid. I was ready. Because what Julian didn't know was that the entire house was wired. Every room, every hallway, every corner was equipped with hidden cameras and microphones, all broadcasting live to a secure server. And as we sat down to discuss our settlement, the world was about to watch Julian Sterling confess to his crimes. He had played his final card. Now it was my turn. Julian started with the pleasantries, a thin veneer of civility stretched over his predatory gaze. He offered me a drink, a glass of the same expensive wine he'd used to try and disarm me months ago. I declined, my eyes never leaving his.
Let's skip the games, Julian, I said, my voice steady. We both know why I'm here. He feigned innocence, a pathetic attempt at deception that only fueled my contempt. I'm not sure I do, Violet. I simply thought we could discuss a mutually beneficial resolution to our differences. I laughed, a short, sharp sound that echoed in the opulent room. A resolution? You mean like the one you concocted in that cabin in the mountains? The one where you framed me for your crimes and tried to destroy my life? His face paled, the color draining away like water from a sinking ship. He stammered, searching for an explanation, a denial, anything to salvage the situation. I don't know what you're talking about. I nodded slowly, a cruel smile playing on my lips. Oh, I think you do. But let me refresh your memory. I reached into my purse and pulled out a small USB drive. This, I said, holding it up for him to see, contains a little surprise. A recording of that meeting in its entirety. Every word, every lie, every detail of your conspiracy. His eyes widened in horror, his carefully constructed facade crumbling before my very eyes. He lunged for the drive, but I was too quick for him. I dodged his grasp and held it out of his reach. Careful, Julian, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You wouldn't want to damage the evidence. He backed away, his breathing heavy, his mind racing. He knew he was trapped, that there was no escape. How did you get that? He whispered, his voice barely audible. Let's just say I have friends in high places, I replied, my smile widening. Friends who are very interested in seeing justice served.
Then I pressed a button on a small remote control I had concealed in my hand. Instantly, the large plasma screen on the wall flickered to life, displaying a live feed from the hidden cameras throughout the house. Julian's face, contorted with fear and rage, filled the screen. He looked around wildly, realizing that he was being watched, that his every move was being recorded. On the screen, a window appeared, displaying the Project Veritas website, ready to go live. I stood up, my voice resonating with newfound power. The show is about to begin, Julian, I said. For years, you have played the puppet master, pulling the strings, manipulating everyone around you. But now, the strings have been cut. The world is about to see you for who you really are. I pressed another button, and the Project Veritas website went live. Simultaneously, the video of Julian's secret meeting began playing on the plasma screen and streamed live on the website for all to see. Julian watched in stunned silence as his carefully constructed world unraveled before his eyes. The video played out his betrayal in excruciating detail. The plan to frame me, the illegal financial transactions, the substances given to government officials. It was all there, irrefutable proof of his guilt. His face crumpled, his eyes filled with a mixture of rage, fear, and despair. He knew he was finished. As the video played, my team of security experts moved in, securing the perimeter and preventing anyone from leaving the house. They were silent, efficient, and utterly professional. Julian's guards were disarmed and restrained without a single shot fired. Within minutes, the authorities arrived, alerted by my team the moment Project Veritas went live. They swarmed the house, arresting Julian and his accomplices. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at me, his eyes filled with hatred. You haven't won, Violet, he snarled. This isn't over. I simply smiled. Oh, Julian, I said. It's over. It's been over for a long time. You just didn't realize it. The fallout was swift and devastating. Sterling Enterprises imploded, its stock plummeting as investors fled in droves. Julian's assets were frozen, his reputation ruined, his legacy tarnished forever. His cronies were also arrested, their careers ended, their lives shattered. The government officials he had been bribing were exposed, their careers destroyed, their reputations irreparably damaged. The scandal reverberated throughout the city, the nation, the world. Project Veritas became a global phenomenon, a symbol of truth and justice in a world of deceit and corruption. People from all walks of life rallied to my support, praising my courage, my resilience, my unwavering commitment to justice. I became an overnight sensation. Lawsuits piled up against Julian and his circle. The authorities moved with unrelenting speed, securing convictions. Julian was found guilty on all counts.
He was sentenced to decades in prison, his life effectively over. As for me, I rebuilt my life, stronger and more resilient than ever before. I started a foundation to help other victims of fraud and corruption, using my experience to empower and support those who had been wronged. I became an advocate for transparency and accountability,
fighting to ensure that others would not suffer the same fate as I had. They lost everything. I just smiled. People often ask me if I felt satisfaction, if I felt vindicated. The truth is, revenge isn't sweet. It's necessary. It's a means to an end, a way to restore balance, to reclaim what was stolen. It doesn't bring happiness. It doesn't bring peace. But it brings justice. And sometimes that's all that matters. Would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more justice.